If the universe ever had a pulse, it was hammering through the alloy walls of Station Arinder, 12 the moment the relic woke up. And trust me, you're going to want to stay till the end of this story because what happened next is exactly why humanity is both respected and quietly feared across the stars. So before we dive deeper, don't forget to subscribe to Coming the HFY for more stories like this, because this one changes everything. At first, nobody panicked. That's important. The engineers blamed the tremor on a fluctuation in the station's gravity core. The researchers assumed the flickering lights were just another glitch in an aging outpost orbiting a dead star. But then the temperature dropped. Not dramatically, just enough that breath started to fog in the air, just enough that instincts sharpened across 13 different species, all standing inside Chamber Sigma. And at the center of that chamber, suspended in a containment field that had not failed in over 800 cycles, floated an object that should have been inert. A blackened, metallic gauntlet etched with lines that glowed faintly blue like veins under skin. Professor Ilian Verek, lead xenoarchaeologist and widely considered one of the most rational minds in the coalition, stared at it with all 4 of his eyes unblinking. "It's reacting," he whispered, his voice unsteady in a way no one had ever heard before. "That's not possible." Around him, observers from dozens of worlds leaned forward or stepped back, depending on whether their species defaulted to curiosity or survival. The gauntlet rotated slowly, almost lazily, like it had all the time in existence, which, based on their data, it might have. Carbon dating, alloy decay, and radiation signatures all agreed. The object was at least 50,000 years old, older than most civilizations currently represented in that room. Older than the coalition itself. And yet, it was waking up. "Increase the containment output," snapped Archivist Cyrian, her thin limbs twitching nervously as her ocular membranes flickered. "If it breaches." "It won't breach," Verek interrupted, though he didn't sound convinced. "The field is calibrated to withstand." The gauntlet pulsed. Just once. But it wasn't light. It wasn't energy in any conventional sense. It felt like something deeper, like a heartbeat echoing through bone. Half the room froze. The other half reached for defensive controls that would be utterly useless if the legends were even half true. Because everyone knew the stories. Not officially, of course. Officially, the coalition dismissed them as myth, exaggerated accounts from pre-unification chaos. But soldiers whispered. Historians argued. Entire species passed down warnings encoded as folklore. The weapon of the first human warbringer. A being who had ended conflicts not with strategy, but with overwhelming, surgical devastation. A figure so destructive that reality itself seemed to bend around her decisions. A myth. It had to be. Until now. The chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss that sounded absurdly normal compared to everything else happening, and every head turned in unison. A human walked in. No armor. No escort. No sense of urgency. Just a slightly annoyed expression, a loose gray hoodie, and a drink pouch floating lazily beside her in the low gravity. "Hey," she said, glancing around like she'd stepped into the wrong meeting. "Anyone here know why the corridor scanners keep looping me back to Dock C? I've been walking in circles for 10 minutes. No one answered. Not because they didn't understand her, but because every single sensor in the room had just spiked in response to her presence. Verek blinked, forcing himself to regain some measure of authority. "This is a restricted research chamber," he said. "Identify yourself." The human blinked back, then gave a quick, awkward smile. "Oh, right. Sorry. Dr. Lena Harlow. Cultural Integration Specialist. Earth Liaison. I got a ping about translation assistance." Verek opened his mouth to respond, but stopped when he realized she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring at the gauntlet. Her expression changed instantly. The casual confusion drained away, replaced by something much more complex: recognition, disbelief, and a very specific kind of dread. Her drink pouch slipped from her hand, drifting upward unnoticed. "No way," she muttered. "You've got to be kidding me." Cyrian's voice sharpened. "Human. Step back immediately." Lena didn't move. "Where did you find that?" she asked quietly. Varek frowned. "You're familiar with the artifact?" Lena let out a short, humorless laugh. "Familiar? Yeah. That's one word for it." She stepped closer despite several guards raising containment fields of their own. "I thought this thing was lost." A ripple of alarm passed through the chamber. "Lost," Varek repeated. "This object predates. Yeah, ancient, mysterious, end-of-the-world vibes," Lena said, waving a hand. "I know. I've heard the speeches." She stopped just a few meters from the containment field, staring at the gauntlet like it might suddenly insult her. "We always thought it got vaporized during the evacuation." "We?" Cyrian asked carefully. Lena hesitated for half a second. "My family." Silence. "Not the curious kind. The heavy kind. The kind where every being in the room is suddenly very aware that something is about to go horribly wrong." Varek spoke slowly. "Dr. Harlo, what exactly are you implying?" Lena rubbed the back of her neck. "Okay, so, you know those old stories about the human warbringer?" No one moved. No one breathed. "Yeah," she continued. "Not a myth." Varek felt something in his mind reject the statement outright. "Impossible." Lena shrugged weakly. "She's my grandmother." If gravity had been fully active, several delegates would have collapsed. As it was, one of the smaller observers simply drifted backward into a console. "That is biologically implausible," Cyrian snapped. "You're talking about a figure from tens of thousands of years ago." "Yep. No organism, early human enhancement tech," Lena cut in. "Long story. Side effects included not dying when you're supposed to." Varek stared at her. "You expect us to believe that the entity responsible for the desolation conflicts is alive?" Lena winced. "Alive-ish. She runs a food stall now." No one knew how to process that. Not the ancient weapon. Not the wars. Not the casual tone. "She makes dumplings," Lena added, as if that somehow helped. The gauntlet pulsed again. This time, stronger. The containment field flickered. "Increase output," Varek shouted, but it was already too late. The field collapsed with a sharp crack of displaced energy. The gauntlet shot forward. Straight at Lena. Half the room screamed. Lena just closed her eyes and sighed. "She's going to be so mad at me." The gauntlet slammed onto her arm, locking into place with a series of clicks that sounded disturbingly organic. Blue light surged across its surface. Panels shifted. Systems woke. And then a voice echoed through the chamber. Calm, clear, and undeniably human. Genetic match confirmed. Descendant recognized. Warframe protocol reactivated. Every alien in the room froze in absolute terror. Lena opened one eye. "Yeah," she muttered. "That sounds about right." Data exploded across every display in the chamber. Maps, battle simulations, tactical overlays far beyond anything the Coalition had ever developed. Lena swayed slightly as information flooded her senses, her expression tightening as flashes of memory, not her own, flickered behind her eyes. Planets, fleets, fire, precision, control. "Oh," she whispered. "That's a lot." Varek could barely speak. "The processing capacity alone. This isn't just a weapon." "No," Lena said softly. "It never was." She looked at her reflection in the gauntlet's surface. "It's a survival tool." The room was silent, except for the low hum of systems that hadn't functioned in 50,000 years. Humans didn't build this because we wanted to fight, Lena continued. We built it because we had to survive. Big difference. Cyrian's voice trembled. And your grandmother used this? Lena nodded. She says she panicked the first time. Several beings made sounds that translated roughly to disbelief mixed with existential horror. Lena gave a small, tired smile. Yeah. Turns out when humans panic, things get disproportionate. The gauntlet pulsed once more, then slowly disengaged, floating back into the air as if satisfied. The chamber lights stabilized. The data streams faded. Silence returned, but it wasn't the same silence as before. This one carried understanding, fear, respect. Lena picked up her drink pouch, took a sip, and made a face. Warm. Great. She looked around at the stunned faces. So, I should probably return this before she notices it's missing again. Varek finally found his voice. Dr. Harlo, do you understand what you've just shown us? Lena tilted her head. That humans are kind of a mess. No, he said quietly. That your species rewrote the rules of survival. Lena considered that, then shrugged. We just don't like losing. And somewhere, far beyond that station, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, an old human woman was probably already wondering where she left her gauntlet, and whether she needed to come pick it up herself.